has been 5 years and I've been hearing about Figma, but I had never taken time to use it myself until now. I tried Figma and made my first design, and this is how you can also make it. First, head over to your favorite browser and type download Figma from Mac. Are you kidding me right now? Never mind. Select all images with cars. Boop, boop. You must be kidding me right now. Is that a car? Oh, here's one. Click verify. Beautiful. Click on the first website and you'll be directly taken to the downloads page. Here, you will see a bunch of options, but in my case, I'll be using Figma on my Mac. Just in case you're using Windows, you know what to do. So it says, anyone using this device can see downloads even when you close all private windows. And boom, the download is finished. Why is it only 1.9 MB? It actually made me curious and I had to find out why the setup size was that small. Figma's setup is considered lightweight and cloud first because it is a browser-based application rather than traditional heavy desktop app. Oh, beautiful. Next, head over to the downloads folder and locate Figma setup that you just downloaded. Double-click figma.dmg to open installation window, and from here, drag and drop the application into your applications folder. Now, by pressing Command plus space, it will open the Spotlight search bar and type Figma. Figma is an app downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? And immediately I was taken to another download menu. Why does it say downloading Figma again? And why does it show dynamic universal app on the status bar? Never mind.
A few moments later.
It took about 2 to 3 minutes and I was finally in, right? Wrong. Immediately Figma opened, I had to sign in or create an account. I clicked login with browser and after a few clicks there was one more thing. Do you want this website to open Figma? I clicked allow and with no further questions, I was welcomed to the Figma interface. Beautiful. To my surprise, it doesn't look complicated. So after starting the interface, I was curious to know how unique this interface was. So Figma's interface has a few sections that you need to learn in order to create designs. And after trying to learn about them, this is what I found. First, I realized that Figma is like a big digital drawing board where you can design apps, websites, or even posters. So when you open the software, it's like you have a giant white board and around you are toolboxes. Simply, you will have a canvas or your big whiteboard where everything literally happens. You can draw shapes here, add text, or even images. At the bottom of the screen, you will have a toolbar which is like a toolbox. In it, you have the necessary tools you need to create your perfect design. The Move tool, which you can access by pressing letter V on your keyboard, and it will help you grab things and move them around. Beautiful. You will also see a Frame tool which can be accessed by pressing F on your keyboard, and this is used to create different screen sizes like desktop or mobile phones. Beautiful. The Shape tool for drawing shapes, which is got by pressing R for rectangle, O for circle or oval, and L for line. And lastly is the Pen tool, which can be accessed by pressing letter P. Oh, I know this one. I guess. Oh yes, and you can use it to draw anything you want. On the lower left, there's a layers panel which shows everything you've added. You can select things, hide them, or even organize them the way you want. Just like stacking Lego pieces in order. Nice. On the right side, you got the properties panel where you can actually change how things look. You can change the color, size, font, dimensions, and even preview your animated designs using the prototype tab. Nice. Now that I'm familiar with the interface, I had to go ahead and try out my first design. So my goal was to create a 3D design in Figma, even though it's not a dedicated 3D software like Blender or Houdini or Microsoft Paint. Kidding. So after a few minutes of browsing YouTube, I landed on this tutorial which I thought it was not so complicated, and I was actually right. Wrong. It actually took me 4 hours to come up with a final design after a lot of trials and errors. I will put the channel link in the description just in case you want to follow along. Alright, this is what I did. First things first, I headed to this channel's Figma community and downloaded the assets which are imported into Figma. The reason being, I was lazy to get my own or even recreate them from scratch. But I wanted to do the same exact design that was done on this channel. I then extracted the assets and they are ready for import in Figma. I realized that everything I imported in Figma created a separate layer on the left which made it easy to control individual objects. Nice. I had actually prepared a script from the video that I was following along, which I'll not show on my screen for matters concerning privacy. Next, I created a canvas or background and I made it 1980 by 1080 pixels by changing the dimensions in the design panel. Beautiful. I now had to fill it with background color, which is supposed to be here, I guess. Yes. Oh, it looks familiar with almost every editing software. Nice. So I'll choose from one of these colors, and for the background, and the color used is blue. Colorblind. It's actually light orange. Beautiful. Next, I have to bring the first object named Karen in the background, and to do this, I had to simply click and drag to the composition. Beautiful. Why is it beneath the background? Oh, I actually had to move the can layer to be on top of the background layer like this. Nice. Next, I had to create a vector of the can shape, and to do this, I had to press P for pen tool. Nice. And after a few minutes, I had got the nearly perfect tool for the can, and it automatically created a new vector layer, which I later renamed by double-clicking. Beautiful. The reason to us why I created the vector layer, it was simply because I actually needed to create a mask of the label and the asset to make it look like words were printed on the can indirectly. Next, I had to switch back to the move tool and I had to move the label to the vector and it moved to the back again. But the fix is always simple. Move the layer to the front in the layers panel and yes, problem solved. So after aligning the label in the center of the can, I had to create a mask by clicking on this icon, but it didn't actually create the mask. I couldn't think of any other way to fix it, and what I actually did, I had to find out how to fill masks in Figma. To add a fill to a vector in Figma, select the vector object, go to the design panel on the right, and click the plus icon to the fill section. Okay, so select the layer and click this plus icon next to fill. Beautiful. So I realized that you can add a solid color, gradient, pattern, image, or even video. Beautiful. So at this point, I decided to change it to white and move the label asset to the vector layer to see whether I can add an image as a mask. So I had to select both the vector layer and the label layer and click the mask button. And this time around, I created the mask. From here, to give it a more realistic feel, I needed the blend modes, which after a few minutes I found here. So clicking this icon brings out the blend modes and I chose this. So at this point, I needed to recreate the website look, and upon moving these assets, I realized that they had a weird border and they were fine to be seen. I actually had to re-import the assets again by exporting one by one.
A few moments later.
Next was aligning the assets in a more simpler design but organized. Beautiful. So I had to add text in the background, and you can add text by pressing letter T on your keyboard. Beautiful. And to get the fill color, you can actually use the eyedropper tool. I then realized that I couldn't scale text by dragging the text box. I learned that to scale text in Figma, you need to use the scale tool, which is got by pressing K on your keyboard. It will bring another menu on the right side of the design window. So to scale text, you can select from these options from 0.25x up to 10x. Nice. Figma also comes with some nice fonts pre-installed, and you can actually choose from one of these for your text just in case you're following along. We shall need to duplicate this layer by selecting and pressing Command plus D on Mac or Ctrl plus D on Windows. The reason for the next duplicate is to actually create another frame that I was going to use in the transition from one slide to another. And this is what I had to do. First, I had to duplicate the first rectangle and rename the second copy to background. Secondly, I had to draw a second rectangle slightly bigger than the original rectangle, which I'll use as a mask to reveal the second slide. Using the eyedropper, give it the same color as the background layer. Beautiful. Now, select all objects except the can plus the text boxes and group them and rename the group to animation group because it is the group we shall be animating. From here, select the animation group and then mask with the exception of buttons and group them again and rename them to pineapple. Beautiful. Hide the first layer named orange. Now open the pineapple layer and do the changes you need just to look familiar to the first frame we designed. Once it is done, next we need to select the pineapple frame and change them to component by clicking this icon. What component means is that it allows you to turn something into a usable piece in various projects and any changes made in that component. For example, if I change this into a component, instead of creating it again, I'll just copy the component across my new project. Beautiful. Now select everything and create a component again. So here we get variants or groups, and from here you can unhide the orange layer and you should have two separate layers. Nice. Next, move the objects and the text to the left until they are kinda out of frame on both of the slides. Now what the mask does, it will be used to reveal the second frame as we are transitioning to make the animation even look cooler. So it was time to animate, and honestly I failed to complete the tutorial on the same day.
The next day.
I had to be familiar with the prototype tab because if you are to animate anything, you must use the prototype tab, which I had no idea about at the moment. The prototype tab lets you make your design clickable and interactive instead of just being a picture. You can also add buttons which are clickable, move between screens, and also add simple animations. Beautiful. So when in prototype tab, it will give you pointers and arrows that you can make actionable by assigning them to different parts and durations or how you'd actually want them to behave. In this case, I had to link this button to the next slide, and what I wanted was that if I click this button, it would actually direct me to the next frame. And if I clicked on the second button in the second frame, it would actually take me directly to the first frame. Simple, right? Wrong. It actually took me more time than I expected to get it right, and here's what I did. So I had to drag and drop the arrow to the next frame, and immediately there was another menu with more settings. The trigger is what starts the set action. It means that when it is pressed, something happens. Nice. Action means the reaction that will happen when it's triggered. Property simply means the group or tab which the actions will take place. Animation simply means animation, and it refers to the type of animation you'd love to use. When you choose the Smart Animate in Animations menu, it will give you a provision on how you want the animation to run. For example, ease in and ease out options plus the duration the animation will take to make the transitions. For my case, I set the trigger mode to on click, animation to Smart Animate, and the curve to Custom Bezier to give it a more customized speed and to bring out the 3D feel. I adjusted a few curve handles to kinda have a balanced speed in animation. I set my duration to 800 milliseconds, and lastly, I dragged the prototype arrow back to the first frame and it actually used the last animation settings, and at this point, I didn't need to actually change any more settings. In order to preview the animation, I had to click the play button and I got this. Beautiful. One more thing,